Okay, so welcome to a Wayne repair. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the best way to reattach the lens to a C3 if you have the lens all split up. All right, so let's go ahead and set aside the body. Before I set the body aside, let's talk about the rangefinder. This might be the best time to get the rangefinder set up. So like what I would recommend is you set this dial here to infinity and you open it up and you can adjust the rangefinder by looking at something at infinity and just making sure that it all lines up like it should. That's not something that I'm going to get into here, but this is a good time to do it. All right, so I'm going to set aside the camera and let's look at the lens and the parts that we have right here. All right, so I've got the lens in three parts. I've got this side of the helical, I've got this side of the helical, I've got this ring right here, and I should have 5 set screws. I have the wheel here that's going to join the focus ring with the lens, and we have a cover. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to join this back. Now, I'm going to assume that you already have everything here cleaned up, right? Because this is the best time to do it, right? So you can use a brush or something like that, and you can get these guys cleaned out. And if you want to, then you can re-lubricate them. I have not re-lubricated this. It seems like it's fine without the lubrication. So I'm just gonna leave it dry. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to join this ring back onto the lens. All right, so as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on the top and 1 screw on the bottom, right? So we wanna do the 4 on the top with the top of the lens, right? So it's gonna look something like that. And this gets a little bit fiddly here because these are small set screws. So I'm gonna do my best here. But we just wanna get 2 set screws in here. All right, so there's the first set screw. Fortunately, this is a magnetic screwdriver bit, so it's a bit of a pain. Okay, so there's the first one. And we don't want to get it all the way tightened down. We just want to get it in there so that's in the groove on the lens. All right, so there's the first one, and I'm going to attach one more. So that's this side. I'm just going to flip it around and do the one that's on the opposite side here. Okay. All right, so I've got that one in here now. Note that I can still rotate this ring, and that's important, okay? So I have the lens here, and I can still rotate this ring, but I cannot separate it, all right? So we have a rotation, but we do not have a separation. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna join the top part of the lens with the bottom part of the lens. And you can do this in any way that you want, but just make sure that you see the brass down here on the bottom side. That's going to be the bottom, right? So this is what's going to mount onto the lens, into the body, I'm sorry. So we're just going to join these like this, and it doesn't matter if I join them in this orientation or in this orientation or any orientation. And the reason is that we're going to utilize the rotation of this ring right here when we do the setup, all right? So I'm just gonna join these, and they are now joined. Okay, so I can rotate this ring here on the bottom, and I can rotate this ring right here, and we're all set. All right, so I'm gonna bring the body back over here. Make sure I've got this in the right part of the frame. And what we're gonna do is we're going to set the rangefinder to infinity, all right? So this is important, all right? So I'm gonna set this to infinity right here, and we're gonna drop this in, all right? So I'm gonna mount the brass part right here. And you wanna make sure that you get this threaded in well. You don't want to cross thread this. All right. All right, so we are seated now, all right? Now, what we wanna do is we wanna make sure that we have the idler set at the right point with the lens. All right, so you can see right here that we have the rotation of the gear set here on the backside of the lens, and we have the rotation of this, and they're going to be synchronized. All right, so let's go ahead and synchronize these. So when I rotate this way, right, it's going to bring the lens this way. All right, so I want to have the maximum rotation here. All right, so just going to go ahead and bring this back until I get to the first tooth at the infinity setting. All right, so this is going to take a little bit of fiddly work here. Okay, that's a little bit too far. So drop it out, set it back in here again. Still a little bit too far, so let's rotate it. There we go. So as you can see here, all right, when I rotate from end to end, it's going to stop just a little bit on the left-hand side of the 3, and I have a hard stop at infinity. It does not go past, and that's just a matter of working with this side of the collar and making sure that you're in that first tooth on the lens. Okay, so we've got them synchronized here. All right, so what we can go ahead and do is reinstall this piece right here, which is a cover. All right, so I'm going to bring the lens out here a little bit. All right, so I'm going to lift up the lens, and let's reinstall this cover. Okay, so that's most of the work done now. But as you can see, we still have 3 screws over here that need to find their way back into the body. Now, what is key here is the setup of the focus. All right, so what you're going to want to do is you can use the Scotch tape method, or you can use the ground glass method, but you're going to want to lay something here across this film plane right here, so that when the lens is at infinity on the dial right here, all right, so you're going to set the dial to infinity, and you're going to want to rotate the lens itself until that's in focus. All right, so you're going to rotate this lens back and forth while you're looking at the film plane right here. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to point at something that is perhaps 300 feet away, 400 feet away, something like that. That's far enough away to be infinity, and rotate this lens until what you're seeing here is clear and sharp and in focus. All right, so let's just pretend that I've done that. All right, so I have this set to the point that is infinity. All right, now let's look at this side of it, all right, because this is what's key. So this is going to stay, all right? So this collar here, right, this one with the teeth on the bottom side is going to stay, right? But what's going to change is this ring here on the lens. And you want to be able to rotate this independently of the actual cell, right? So this part is not going to rotate, right? This is going to rotate when you're setting the focus, right? And once you get that focus set, you're going to keep that still, right? It's not going to move. What you want to do is you want to rotate this one right here. And that's going to align this larger hole here with the square hole on this bottom part of the mount, all right? So let's say that we have these aligned, all right? So I have infinity and the lens has been set up for infinity. Let's say that it's just right there, okay? So I'm gonna keep that still and I'm gonna rotate this until this hole here is aligned with the square. All right, so that's aligned now with the square, and I'm going to install the larger grub screw, or I should say set screw. That's going to go in right here. Once again, this is magnetic, so it's going to be a little bit of a pain. Let's get a slightly larger screwdriver here. Okay, there we go. So, you have now locked these two mechanisms right here. Okay, and all that's left is to install and tighten the last of the two screws. All right, so we're just going to insert this little set screw right here on the top. Oops. These are real fiddly. Get a smaller screwdriver bit. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the last one out, but I think you get the point. All right, so we just wanna make sure that these are all tightened. So I'm gonna tighten this one, and there's one more over here that I'm gonna have tightened, and I'm gonna install the last one, and I'm gonna tighten that one as well too, but I'm gonna leave that out. So that's it. So now you have a fully set up C3, you have the gears cleaned, you have everything realigned, and you're set to go shooting. Cool.